Melissa,
Sarah,
what are we doing today?
we're having a jolly old chat about our 2025 holiday reads.
Ho, ho, ho.
Sarah, this time of year is so full of nostalgia, just in so many ways. I feel like all the traditions and memories are just so alive and very nostalgic at this point in the year. But in particular, when it comes to the podcast, because our very first episode that we ever recorded way back was a Holiday Reads episode when we talked about Claire Keegan's Small Things Like These, which is a book that now I have read the last 3 years running every single year. It's become a bit of a tradition in its own right.
Yeah, and I actually, for the first time, read that book finally after your highly, highly recommended read of it. It was definitely a must read at the time. And I can see why, not only as a Christmas story, but as just like a really excellent work of short fiction. So I can completely understand why that has been a read for you, a reread for you, 3 years and potentially even a fourth year in a row. And last year, when we recorded this episode, I read Brightly Shining, which I have right here, by Ingvild Rissoy. It's a Scandinavian book that was translated into English. And the reason why I read that was because in the reviews, uh, Small Things Like These was referenced as kind of like a comparison novel. And although it didn't live up to that, it was truly like a bittersweet story about, familial sisterly love and the harsh reality that a lot of children can face at this time of year. So, yeah, we love a holiday read, don't we, Melissa?
Sometimes we do, and sometimes we really don't, in fact, which I think we'll probably get into this evening. So, yeah, I'm not sure necessarily if you'll end up rereading Brightly Shining. I know that you did like it, but I don't know that it will fit into sort of like a Christmas tradition necessarily. But a lot of that probably just comes down to time too, because I feel like the idea of traditions is that we're, repeating behaviors and repeating activities and events. And if it were up to me, I would just be festiviting all over the place from the end of November well until Christmas and beyond, because I want to decorate all the cookies, go to all the parties, jingle all the bells, deck all the halls, but ultimately we just eventually completely run out of time. But I also want to be reading all of these holiday reads. And I know, I've read a couple of things that we'll talk about, but I first want to hear about what you've been reading, because you were giving us some teasers on the social media, on our Could Read, Should Read, Must Read social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. You put some book stack pictures up there that people have been intrigued by. So tell us what you've read.
All right, Melissa. So it really is no secret, even though I was saying we love a holiday read, I was really saying like maybe like a universal we. But it's no secret that although I love the holiday season and I truly do, um, it's a little bit of a struggle for me with when it comes to holiday reads. So you can call me a Scrooge, but I tend to get a little bit stingy with my goodwill toward most Christmas themed books, primarily because I find that the majority of books on the market are either romance books, which is not my genre of choice, or they're just kind of like too saccharine for me. And the cynic in me really feels like many holiday books are kind of a lazy way for authors to make an extra buck and cashing in on nostalgia and sentimentality. And although I'm a very sentimental and nostalgic person, I don't like to feel manipulated. And so I always have a little bit of a hard time. But I do want to say I really and truly made an effort this year. I made an effort for you, Melissa, because I know this is something near and dear to your heart, and I love you. And I did it for the podcast, always for the pod. And that means I went to three different libraries searching for books. And as you mentioned, I did end up having a stack of books that I collected from my local libraries in this desperate search for something that would fit my persnickety palette.
And they had those
and
cute little, they have such cute little Christmas stickers on the sides.
I
What a
know, which
nice
is
touch.
actually really helpful because when I was looking through the stacks, the Christmas tree, kind of like really sticks out. And they have them for other genres too, like mystery or
Oh.
like historical fiction. So if you're kind of in a pinch and you're looking through stacks of books, it is helpful to have a little identification sticker wise on the binding of it. But I am proud to say that I consumed not one, but two holiday reads for this year's episode. And the first was an audiobook, which is not something that we talk about super often, but we have, on occasion talked about audiobooks. The first one was Frida McFadden's The Gift, which is a modern retelling of the famous O. Henry short story, The Gift of the Magi. And so, for me to kind of get into it a little, um, I'll start with The Gift of the Magi. I feel like similar to A Christmas Carol, The Gift of the Magi is like just kind of interwoven with like the holidays. Like, I feel like it would probably be kind of weird for you not to know what the story is, but no judgment. But it is like a turn of the century story, short story about a couple, Della and Jim. It's set on Christmas Eve in New York City in 1905. And they are deeply in love with one another, but unfortunately, they do not have any money. And we see Della, who has less than $2 to her name, thinking desperately, what am I going to get for Jim to show him how much I love him on this special Christmas that we're together? And so she ends up resorting to going to a wig maker and selling her hair for $20 in order to buy a beautiful platinum chain that Jim can use for his pocket watch, a beloved pocket watch that's a family heirloom and his most prized possession. So when Della does give her present of this pocket watch chain to him and confesses that she has sold her hair in order to get this gift for him, he then in turn gives her his gift, which was a fine set of combs to wear in her beautiful hair. And it turns out that he actually sold his precious pocket watch in order to buy the combs. And so I believe it is a case of cosmic irony that's explored in this story. But it's also this really kind of sweet message about how sacrifice and love being so much more meaningful than actual gifts themselves. So that's our original The Gift of the Magi by O. Henry. Now, McFadden, who I think is known for like a little bit more of a darker fare of books, although this again is the first time I've really encountered her. This is like a not only a modern retelling, but a little bit of a twist on that story. And so instead of Della and Jim, we are presented with the characters Stella and Justin. So definitely a play off of the original characters' names. But we meet Stella first. Stella is working at a dingy diner in New York City, and it's Christmas Eve. This is Stella's second job. By day, she is a school teacher, and by night, she is a waitress at this diner. She is married to Justin. This is their first Christmas holiday as a married couple. And we learn that Justin is in law school, and that is his only job. He is not working, although Stella is working two jobs. So he is at home while she is working on this Christmas Eve night. And we also learn that Stella is not only paying off her own student loans, but she's also helping to pay Justin's way through law school. Um, so they live in a tiny apartment. In fact, their heat has just been turned off due to a late payment. And so I share these details because McFadden truly kind of beats us over the head with them. In the first chapter alone, we hear about Stella, frankly, kind of bitching in her own mind about how much she hates this job, how much she is lamenting the fact that they have no money at all, and that she has no money to buy any gifts at all. And she's kind of thinking about, like, oh, I didn't get him a gift. And, she's supposed to be going home after her shift at the diner and they're going to exchange gifts at midnight. And he says he has something special for her and she has nothing for him. So it's closing. There's one patron left in the diner, an old woman who's been sitting in a booth for quite a long time. Stella goes to the booth to inform this patron that they are indeed closing and she will have to vacate her seat. And when Stella comes upon this patron, she at first is a bit alarmed because the woman's not moving. She's stiff. Her eyes are gone milky and she's kind of gazing off into the distance. And Stella actually thinks that she's died in this seat. Turns out she's only sleeping with her eyes open. And so, as Stella is kind of helping her to the door, the woman introduces herself as Helga, very heavily accented. And remember, this was an audiobook. So, the narrator really played up the accent very, very heavily. And the woman Helga says to her, it's Christmas Eve, and I don't know, maybe you have a gift you have yet to buy for someone that's very special. And I just happen to own a shop just a few blocks away. And if you are looking for a certain something for that special someone, you're welcome to come with me back to my shop and see what I have. And so Stella decides, why not? I'm going to follow this mysterious old woman to her shop in New York City on Christmas Eve at almost midnight. And it's like almost like a little kind of antique shop, but it's a spooky one. There's like a skull that's right away as she walks in the door, and it's like, is that a monkey skull? Is it a human skull? What's going on? And Helga is alluding to all these different items that she has. She even refers to like a monkey's paw. So again, a little bit of foreboding there with that kind of a gift. And so, not to give everything away, but it does end up with some hair being sold and a pocket watch being purchased or at least exchanged, and Stella going home to present this gift to her new husband. But while the gift of the Magi is, heartwarming and sweet, this is definitely not the case for the gift. So instead of a theme of sacrifice and love, we get a real kind of dark twist. I got to say, Melissa, I am not one to yuck somebody's yum because we all have our own tastes, right? And who's to say anyone else's taste is better than another? And I do love a dark and twisted story because after all, Stephen King is, remains like close to my heart. I've loved him since I was like 14. But this book was neither good nor was it clever. What was told over about 50 pages or like maybe about an hour or so of audio could have been summarized in like 10 pages. It was repetitive. It was super heavy-handed. And this, despite the lack of sentimentality, truly felt like a pure money grab from Miss McFadden. I found myself annoyed as I was listening and rolling my eyes, and it's only for the pure fact that I knew it was really quick and I could get through it and know that I had one holiday book under my belt that really kind of got me through it. So, I haven't encountered her before. I am familiar with her book. The Housemaid is kind of all over the place at this point. So even though I went in with limited expectations, it was tough to swallow, and I have to say it was a good read for me for this one. So, whew.
Yeah, I'm not super surprised by this. So when I knew you were listening to a Frida McFadden book, I kind of wondered like where you were going to land on it because I did read The Housemaid in the summer. And while it was not my least favorite thing, I would definitely not call it my yum, to to use the term that you used just now. It definitely, yeah, it was not really something that I particularly liked, to the point that at various moments in my reading experience, I questioned maybe how much generative AI may have been put to use when creating this book, because it was, like you said, verbose to the point that it was, a bit nauseating, actually. It was just like a bit too much. So I can totally see how that may have been your experience with this Christmas read, as well as an audiobook. I think that would have really added to things. And as much as I'm kind of poo-pooing on this idea of using generative AI, as I get into my first Christmas read, holiday read, I kind of wonder if maybe a little bit of generative AI would have helped it out a little bit, frankly. I say that in jest. I don't actually mean that. And so it'll probably come as a little bit of a surprise, too, for folks who are familiar with this author, that I'm even saying anything disparaging about him. Because the book that I've read as my very first holiday read in these early days of Yuletide is The Christmas Tree, Two Tales for the Holidays by David Adams Richards. Now, I need not tell you that David Adams Richards is like a beloved writer of Atlantic Canada. He is incredibly talented, revered, accolades aplenty, which is why this was particularly surprising. But again, I think, to the point that you made earlier, and having recently rewatched our last year's episode, the point that we really made there as well, these holiday reads are often just opportunities for well-established authors to be cranking out their Christmas hits to make sure that they are front row center on the shelves during the retail bonanza of the year that is Christmas. So when I think about this book coming out in 2006, these were really the glory days of David Adams Richards' career. Not to say he is not going to have another blast of success any day now. I know he's got it in him. He's a fantastic writer. But he was hot on the heels of winning the Giller in 2000. He also won the Governor General's Prize a few years before that. Like, these are major Canadian awards. This guy has the chops to put out an incredible Christmas book. In fact, his award-winning novel, Mercy Among the Children, actually has a Christmas scene, and I haven't read that book since grad school, so 2007, and that stays with me. It's a beautiful portion of the book where you're following this family who has certainly come upon hard times throughout the holidays, and it's very significant. So we know he's got it in him, but by his own admission, you know, in the first line, there's an introduction to the book where he opens with, "I have been asked to write about Christmas." So this is really, he is doing something that someone from his publishing house has put in a request for. The whole thing, there's 2 stories in here. It's less than 50 pages. Like, this is a very slim volume here. And the stories were really bland. Like, I was really disappointed because I know how powerful his writing can be, even in short format. But they're just 2 really basic stories. They do happen to happen at Christmas, but there's no real denouement, if you will. I mean, there's nothing that you're really following to see through what's going to happen. And I get that he was likely approached, not at Christmas when asked to write these. So when he was asked to write about Christmas, it was probably like April or June, the least Christmassy months of the year. I think about this every time someone puts out a Christmas album too. I'm like, you were recording this in the dead of summer and, doing all the sleigh bell sound effects or whatever in a studio when everyone is just not feeling at their most holly jolly. So, upon command, trying to put out something that really espouses all of these feelings of Christmas would be pretty tricky. So I couldn't help but feel like this was an example of just something that was put out so that someone going through a bookstore looking to buy something for a book lover who already has everything would have something new from, one of the hot authors at the time, not unlike The Gift by Frida McFadden. Sorry.
Yeah, I know it's disappointing, but I can't help but, I'm always going to pull in some film or television show that I'm watching. But as you're talking about like recording something, an album in the middle of summer that's like Christmas themed, I can't help but think about Love Actually. Have you seen Love Actually? I was going to say, I mean,
Yeah,
you may not have watched a lot, but
many
yeah,
times.
that one is kind of a classic, although maybe problematic, but we don't have to talk about that here. But I keep thinking about that singer, Billy Mack, and he has a song called Christmas is All Around, and it's like a complete ripoff. They just like switch Christmas with the original word love, because there was a song called Love is All Around. And he even admits that it's a terrible song and he's shocked when it becomes like a number one hit. But yeah, there is that kind of like cynical feeling, and for good reason. I mean, Christmas has been commercialized so much and we talk about it a lot. I have to say, in thinking about my second read, because I did end up getting it after I had finished The Gift, which had left kind of a sour taste in my mouth. I was, disheartened and was thinking like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Because I can't do something like that again. And so it led me to be like a little bit more creative with my second choice. I ended up going on my town library website and I was putting in all of these different search terms for Christmas and holiday and Hanukkah. And then I ended up resorting to New Year's because I was like, okay, there could be some New Year's books. That could be interesting. And I was putting like Christmas murder, like just anything and everything to try to figure out, like, okay, how can I get something that I can actually like get through in a tolerable way? And so I ended up choosing a book called The Hunting Party, which I have right here. So it is Lucy Foley, who I believe the guest list is her like pretty popular book. And this book is from 2019, which is quite a while ago when you think about it. And the book itself is definitely like a mystery thriller, and it is all set over one New Year's weekend. So, New Year's of 2018 to 2019. And it's set at a resort in the Scottish Highlands. And even though it's not like specifically Christmas story, I feel like the idea of something taking place during that kind of really weird, almost like nebulous period between Christmas and New Year's is kind of like a good setting for a book. And like I said, it's all within like a very brief period, like a 72-hour period. And I thought it would be like kind of a good alternative, as well as a palate cleanser in a bit. This was my first Lucy Foley that I've ever read, and I've only really read like less than a handful, only a couple of mysteries this year. So I thought, oh, this will be good. This will be good. I will give a little bit of a brief summary for this one as well. The book begins on January 2nd, 2019, with Heather, who is the kind of manager of this resort. And there's a guest who has gone missing over the New Year's holiday. And there's a blizzard that has been ongoing basically from New Year's Day onward. And the guest ends up being found dead at the bottom of a frozen waterfall. And it looks like it's under suspicious circumstances, looking like foul play. From here, that's really like the first chapter of the book. We go back in time to December 30th on a train with a group of 9 people who are on their way to this resort. They have essentially rented out the resort for the New Year's holiday. And we are introduced to the character Emma. Emma is one of the friends. She's the newest addition to this friend group who all know each other from their years at Oxford. So this is taking place probably like say a decade to 12 years after their time at Oxford. So they're all in their like early 30s. And there's 3 couples. There's Emma and her boyfriend Mark. There's a married couple. I almost said Matilda. That is definitely not her name. And her name is repeated so often in this book. I should have it just like on the tip of my tongue. But Miranda and Julian, there's another couple, Giles and Samira and their baby. And then another couple, Nick and Bo, and then their single friend, Katie, who has come along. Um, as is expected, most, if not all, of the characters have some sort of secret, and these secrets lead to tension, and this tension leads to murder. And, we're kept in the dark about the identity of the victim. So we know it's one of them, but we don't know exactly who it is. And we actually don't know who the murderer is for the entire book. Each chapter switches back and forth between December 30th and 31st, and then the kind of present day of January 2nd. And it's told primarily through the viewpoints of 5 different characters: Emma, Miranda, Kate or Katie, who are all part of that friend group, and then Heather, the manager of the resort, and then the gameskeeper, Doug. I have to say, for the most part, it was kind of a fun and fast read. It was about just over 300 pages, so that made it like a quick one to get through. The plot does get bogged down a bit with what I felt were unnecessary like side characters and plots that really didn't, they were like, red herrings, which I suppose you always need in a mystery thriller book. And I did feel like some of these plot twists and the secrets were a little bit telegraphed. Like I could kind of figure out pretty early on, oh, this one's going to be that, no, and that. But despite that, it was a good follow up read, and I loved and appreciated the fact that there was so much drinking going on, as there often is in that like New Year's holiday. And that those kind of like strange days that are happening where everybody's kind of a little bit in a daze and a little bit hungover. And I just finished it last night, so I'm patting myself on the back for finishing it in time for this episode recording and for getting 2 holiday reads under my belt, or my book belt, I guess you could say.
Well, congratulations. That is excellent. Yeah, well done. And clearly, listening to and reading these Christmas books is part of your, preparation for Christmas, getting into the Christmas spirit. And I too have a book-related practice that I want to share. And okay, I'm kind of hoping that this is going to lead to a bit of what could be a bit of a risky live TV situation here in the Rogers studio here in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. But I have purchased, somewhat selfishly, for my husband, for Tom, the McSweeney's Internet Tendency Advent Calendar. So I'm like showing this beautiful item on screen here if people are only listening to this episode. And I feel like I need to give a bit of context just in case folks aren't familiar with McSweeney's or McSweeney's Internet Tendency. So McSweeney's is a publication, and then the McSweeney's Internet Tendency is a website with daily publications, and they're all humorous. The intention is that this is humorous writing. It's amazing. It's all super skilled, super talented, very funny writers, and it's particularly funny at Christmas because they play with a lot of the themes of Christmas, especially like characters that everyone knows. And we've talked about this even in this episode already. It's like people are so familiar with the recurring characters of Christmas. So it's a bit of shorthand in terms of like making something really interesting and accessible to a lot of people because you can play with that character because people know them so well. And they've seen so many different iterations of them or performances of them. Someone like Scrooge, for example. Or I'll read a couple of the titles from the previous days as we've been making our way through the Advent calendar. So, for example, December 6th was Anne Rand writes Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So that was an interesting visit to, the Misfit Island. Sun Tzu, The Art of the War on Christmas was one of my favorites so far. Yesterday's was, yes, The Silence of the Lambs is a Christmas movie. So that one was weird and a little bit gross, but definitely really entertaining. So here's where things might get a little bit messy. I don't know what sorts of like cut to commercial break we may have to do, because that's how McSweeney's rolls, is that anything could really be contained in this little book. But as you can see, these little tiny books inside that box, and yeah, there you go. Today's December 9th. And they're sealed at the back, so we have no idea what the title is. So I'm going to very gently peel this, like it's a perforated edge right here. Okay, so the title of today's story is, okay, the title is Herr Drosselmeyer, It Gives Me to Disinvite You and Your Nutcracker from Future Holiday Parties by Audrey Burgess. I would like to read this, and I'll read it as quickly as I can. Obviously, it's pretty tiny, but interestingly, if you go back in the archives, again, I did not know this was coming. One of our very first episodes, when we did our 3 teaser episodes to see if this was something we wanted to do more of, clearly we did, was your holiday read of a Nutcracker retelling, which was called
Hidden Sea. Yeah,
Hidden Sea.
Yeah.
McGuire.
By the same author who did the Wicked series.
Yes.
Of course, can I remember his name?
I can't think
now,
of his first name, but his last name is McGuire.
Gregory McGuire.
Gregory McGuire, there we go. See, that's why we're a team. Together, we have a complete memory of everything. So that, you know, the Drosselmeyer factors in there. Okay, I'm going to read this super quick, but I have a feeling it's going to be funny. Dear Herr Drosselmeyer, there's no easy way to put this, old friend. You've cracked your last nut in the Stahlbaum house. When our house developed a rampant infestation of mutant vermin in advance of our annual soiree, you were the first person I called. Not everyone would trust an unattached older gentleman who dresses like a pirate sorcerer and enters rooms in a puff of smoke, but I have long been a fool for all things fantastical, and our house is full of your wondrous creations. I made you my children's godfather, for heaven's sake. I thought I could rely on you. I asked, do you have some device that can rid us of these troublesome mice? You winked your mischievous eye and disappeared with a poof, and I thought, he's got this. I told my wife Marie to cancel the exterminators. Dross will work his magic, I said. Marie gesticulated wildly and spun away from me on point, as is her custom. It saddens me that her misgivings were warranted. Before the party, you were nowhere to be found. I tried to ignore the noisy scratching of the mice behind the walls as we decorated. He's got this, I kept telling myself. Dross has never let me down. When you finally arrived, hours late and with an uninvited nephew in tow, your entrance was so alarming that our guests froze in terror. Then you embraced my family with a sweep of your black satin cloak and acted as if everything were normal. Everyone resumed celebrating, and I resumed staring at the walls and baseboards, which, so far as I knew, continued to shelter rodents. I tried to catch your eye. You were too preoccupied pulling boxes, large, heavy boxes, from beneath your voluminous cloak. Those boxes were the first hope I had all night. Good old Dross, I thought, better late than never. But you didn't have a single mousetrap with you. No magical flute to lure the mice, Pied Piper style. Not even cheese and crackers. All you had was a disquieting collection of life-size dolls. And while they were marvelous dancers, I doubted their skill in extermination. I didn't know then what I know now, that your pest control strangely almost entirely relied on my benight-gowned daughter Clara, aided only by that unsettling nutcracker figurine you gave her for Christmas. You could have just given her a doll, or perhaps something that would actually kill mice. To make matters worse, you weren't even planning to get started on this make the sleeping child eradicate vermin plan until the party was over and everyone was asleep. What the hell, Dross? How did you get back into the house anyway? Have you ever awoken from a deep slumber to the shrieks of a terrified preteen who claims she fought a 7-headed mouse king, Dross? No, because I have. Every night since Christmas. And the only thing that gives her comfort is that whiskery nutcracker you gave her, which, bonus, she loves with a fervor that is not entirely age appropriate. I sometimes catch her pressing her fingers in its jaw and squeezing. That is for nuts, Clara, I tell her. I grasp her by her shoulders and look into her eyes. You are not a nut, Clara. She gesticulates wildly and spins away from me on point, as is her custom. Don't even get me started on the increase in our household's sugar budget. If we don't have a constant supply of peppermints, candy canes, hot chocolate, and other confections, Clara moans that the sugar plum fairy has banished her from the land of sweets. If she's not consuming bonbons at all times, she says, I'll never find my way back to my prince. What prince? Hell if I know. She just dances with that damn nutcracker and cries. It took every servant of our household to pry the thing from her grasp. You will find its cursed carcass in the box that accompanies this note. We told Clara we were sending it to a farm in the northern provinces. I think you should consider moving there yourself and never darken our door again. To be sure, Dross, our holidays without you will lack magic, whimsy, and 6-foot-tall tin soldiers with extraordinary strength and flexibility. But the alternative is a sugar-fueled fever dream that pulls everyone into its thrall and leaves madness in its wake. And who would ever want to see something like that? Best wishes, Herr Stahlbaum. It's funny. And especially funny if you know the story. So it's a really fun play with Christmas themes. I love it.
Oh, that's so great. And what there's so many different types of like, you know, calendars with chocolates in them or little toys, but books, I mean,
I know.
can't think of anything better. And
It
yeah,
was a great
I love
little
it.
present. But if I do say so myself, that I gave to Tom, but I think it was great. But in any case, you also have your work cut out for you. Obviously, these books are all picked for me. I have something ready to read on a daily basis, but you still have to pick your third and presumably final holiday read from that stack of yours from the libraries. So what are we going to do next?
I don't know, but I was hoping that maybe you could help me maybe pick something. So I have most of these books. I have them for at least the next like week or two, and that's usually like around the amount of time I need to get through a book. And they're all in that kind of nice sweet spot of under 350 pages. So I am going to read each title and maybe like a little brief description, and then you will get to pick which one I read next.
Oh, I
So
like
we'll
this
start
task.
with, I know it's fun, right? So this one is The Noel Diary, and it's by Richard Paul Evans. Apparently, like Christmas books are like this guy's bread and butter because he also has books called The Christmas Box and The Walk. And so this is the description. Oh, and actually, the New York Times has called him the king of Christmas fiction. So uh, this one says, more than once in the hazy dreamscape between slumber and consciousness, I had a vision of a young woman with long black hair that glistens in the sun like obsidian. In this dream, I am small next to her, and she is holding me close to her breast, singing to me, looking lovingly into my face with her soft, almond shaped eyes. It's always the same young woman I see. I don't know who she is or why she haunts the passages of my consciousness. I don't know if she's even real, but she feels real. And something inside of me longs for her. God, I don't know what kind of this is going to be. Whoever she is, she loves me, or she did, and I love her. This is the story of how I found that woman and on that journey found love. So that's our first choice, Melissa. And I
Okay.
don't know. That's could be spicy. We'll see. All right. So this one is The Winter Ghosts by Kate Moss. And this one says, in the winter of 1928, still seeking some kind of resolution to the horrors of World War I, Freddie is traveling through the beautiful but forbidding French Pyrenees. During a snowstorm, his car spins off the mountain road. Dazed, he stumbles through the woods, emerging in a tiny village where he finds an inn to wait out the blizzard. There he meets Fabrica, a lovely young woman also mourning a lost generation. Over the course of one night, Fabrica and Freddie share their stories. By the time dawn breaks, Freddie will have unearthed a tragic centuries old mystery and discovered his own role in the life of this remote town. So that's our second option. This one next is the autobiography of Santa Claus as told to Jeff Gunn. And it says, this enchanting holiday treasure combines historical fact with glorious legend as St. Nicholas reveals the definitive story of Santa Claus. For anyone who has ever wondered your right to believe in him. And I'm not going to read the rest, but
Okay.
that's, I mean, it's basically Santa Claus telling his story. Next one is, because I'm trying to get through these so we're not taking all night, The Christmas Train by David Baldacci. I have a feeling this guy also writes a lot of Christmas stories. Um, one of America's most critically acclaimed storytellers, David Baldacci, has enthralled millions of readers with his popular novels. We don't need to know about that. Oh, now in his special new gift edition, here is Baldacci's beloved holiday classic, a work that showcases his remarkable versatility as he brings us a uniquely entertaining tale. Disillusioned journalist Tom Langdon must get from Washington to LA in time for Christmas. Forced to take the train across the country because of a slight misunderstanding at an airport security, he begins a journey of self discovery and rude awakenings, mysterious goings on, and thrilling adventures, screwball escapades, and holiday magic. He has no idea that the locomotives pulling him across America will actually take him into the rugged terrain of his own heart as he rediscovers people's essential goodness and someone very special he believed he had lost. So that is The Christmas Train.
Okay.
Okay, Holly Chamberlain, The Season of Us. To outsiders, Appleville, New Hampshire is a storybook small town complete with a little white church and a gazebo on the village green. To Cindy Gannon Longo, I don't know, it was a place to escape from as she quickly and permanently as she could. Since she moved away 20 years ago, Appleville has been her hometown in name only, but her brother Tommy's urging, Cindy is coming back to visit their recently widowed mother in the weeks leading up to Christmas, and she's bringing her teenager daughter Tasman with her. And there's lots of other people, so I'm not going to go into the rest. It's her returning to her hometown, a reluctant person. And this one I know you know. I have not read it, but I know you have, and it's Truman Capote's A Christmas Memory.
Oh, yeah. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Is that the only one? Like, because sometimes that's in a collection, but is it the only one that's in that one?
So this one, it actually has like illustrations and everything.
Lovely.
And it has a handy dandy CD on the inside cover that you could listen to.
Oh.
So what should I
okay, that's the full. Okay, so this
Yeah.
is easy for me. Okay, and here's my whole rationale. You're going to actually
Okay.
read, based on my recommendation, this is like, I feel like I'm giving you a prescription right now. You're going to actually read 2 of those books because you're going to pop that CD in just when you're wrapping presents or something, and you're going to listen to it, and you're going to be productive while you're wrapping presents. You're going to give William the physical book, and he's going to follow along while he's watching the pictures, so you guys can share in that experience of listening to that story together while you're also getting a critical Christmas task accomplished. So that won't actually even count because what you're also going to do in your true reading time is read that autobiography. And the reason I'm picking that one, and I had this in my mind, but then when you continued talking, I was like, no, we're on the same wavelength here. When you were reading one of the other book jackets, you made a comment about, and there's lots of other people. And you didn't exactly seem excited about meeting all these other characters. And I feel the same way. We have enough characters in the Christmas, story. This is what I was saying about the McSweeney stuff. Play with the ones we have or give them different rewritings or new perspectives. And I feel like reading that Santa Claus autobiography or biography will do that without incorporating a bunch of other unnecessary folks into the story. And interestingly, the other holiday read that I'm currently reading, so I can't really say much about the book itself because I'm only about 75 pages in, kind of does something similar. It is Mr. Dickens and His Carol, which we actually also talked about last year because your friend Stephanie Gromko had posted on our socials to say that she was reading this one last year as part of her holiday reads and recommended it to us. And then I went off on my 2025 reading, New Year's resolution of only getting free and cheap books. And I found this at a used book sale this past spring. And I snatched it up right away. It was probably like, I'm not even joking, $2, $5, and it's been waiting for me to pick it up. And so far, I'm actually really liking it, and I think you would too. It's just
Good.
super cozy. It's obviously set in the Victorian era. It's meant to be like a fictionalized telling of when Charles Dickens was writing The Christmas Carol, sort of like the circumstances that pushed him into actually writing this like incredibly famous Christmas story. But it brings in other writers of the time. Thackeray seems to like feature prominently in there. But it's also really relatable because his wife is like really overdoing it with Christmas, too many decorations, too much, she's just on a bit of a spending frenzy. And he's kind of like trying to rein her in. He's being a bit dishonest with her about his employment situation, and maybe they don't have as much, liquidity in terms of their savings as she is of the impression that they do. And at the part where I am now, he's also kind of, maybe he's a bit more of a, maybe he's not as quite of a savory individual as we may have assumed Charles Dickens, who wrote that beautiful story, was. So if you want to hit up your friend Stephanie and see if you can borrow this book from her, that would be my third in line based on my recommendations for you there.
I have so much reading to do. Well, it's funny because when I initially went to the first library, which is, good old Killingly Public Library, who, we've talked about quite a bit on this podcast, I was looking for that book. And I hadn't looked online first. I was like, they could probably have it. And it was like a relatively popular title when it came out, and they didn't have it. And then I was like, well, maybe they'll have a whole row of books that are all like Christmas recommended books, and I can just pluck one from there. They didn't. They had like some, like, I don't know, like youth, I don't know. It was like some sort of series that was being featured on their wall as you walk in. And so I went, oh, great. So now I have to look for these books. And that thus started my journey. But I almost potentially could have ended up with that one too. But I will hit up my pal Steph and see if she's got her copy handy, because I do feel like it does sound like a good read to put one in the spirit of the holidays.
So
Yeah.
I think we're coming close to the end of our time, but I want to kind of plant one more thing in your brain, in your ear, or maybe I'm putting you on the spot. Hopefully I'm not. But as we head into those kind of nebulous days between Christmas and New Year's, we were talking about that when you were giving the summary of the Lucy Foley book. That's a lot of prime reading time for me, that in-between phase. So I'm very excited to get a couple of books under the tree that I can enjoy then. So I have two in particular that I have asked Santa to bring me. One is The Life Cycle of the Common Octopus by Emma Knight, which I'm excited to read. And the second is Pick a Color by Suvankam Tominvangsa, which just won the Giller. So those are my reads that I'm hoping to read in like the latter part of 2025, early days of 2026. What's on your Christmas book list that you're hoping will be under the tree?
So, unlike last year, because last year I did pick a bunch of books and I got them for Christmas, which was great. I don't have any on my list. And I did ask, and I feel like I almost have to like whisper this. But I did ask my husband for a Kindle. Um, I
Whoa,
know,
that is
I
big
know.
news.
That's big news. So, I mean, and maybe like access to like a Kindle Unlimited so that I can pick titles that I want. So who knows? Who
Ooh.
knows if that will be waiting for me under the tree, and what books I might read through that device. Pick a Color is actually on my list of books that I do want to read in sometime in the next couple months, because it has been so kind of highly acclaimed, Giller Prize winner, as you said. I am still making my way through The Rosefield, the Philip Pullman book that I referenced the last time we recorded here on Rogers, and so I feel like I have read more of it, but I look at where my bookmark is, and it looks like it's not moved at all. So there's a good chance I'm probably going to be reading that book as we're finishing the days of 2025, but we'll see. But I'm excited to kind of recap the whole year with you and to see what we got for Christmas and to be planning for what we're going to be doing in 2026.
Me too. And I just want to say, as we enjoy this beautiful holiday season of Christmas and New Year's and nostalgia and love and all of the warm, fuzzy feelings of this time of year. You are such a gift in my life. I love you from the bottom of my heart. I'm so grateful all the time that I have you in my pocket, on my phone, and on my screen, and in my heart all year round. You are truly a gift as my friend. So Merry Christmas to you, to your beautiful family, to all the listeners, everyone all around the world. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, season's greetings.
Ah, what a beautiful sentiment. I echo everything that you said right back at you, my friend. Love you so much. Merry Christmas. And looking forward to seeing you in the new year.
Indeed. Mwah.